Hi everyone, and welcome back to Maths and Physics with assignments. Today's lesson, grade 11 and 12 equation inequalities. Grade 12 it's question 1. Grade 11 sometimes question 1, sometimes question 2. So yeah, we're looking at solving equations by means of factorization, and technically it's revision because you get introduced to this in grade 10 and grade 9. Now what I'm doing in here is practice created worksheets. This is called foundation practice, meaning these are marks we expect you to get in a grade 11 and 12 exam. The worksheet is called solving equation by means of factorization. And this is for if you're interested in online tuition. So you tell me if you are interested or not by leaving a comment or like. If you feel I can help you online, please like and subscribe. So first, before we go further, under factorization, now in this video I'm looking at solving equations by factorization. Then quadratic equation by using the quadratic formula, compulsory exam question. Then solving equations involving fractions. We're going to have solving equations by finding square roots, solving equations by means of substitution, K method, solving equations by means of squaring, inequalities, completing the squares, simultaneous, nature of roots, and word problems. So these are the 11 questions we may ask. The ones that become compulsory, grade 12, especially simultaneous equation, nature of roots, inequalities, finding square roots, or not square roots, squaring, isolate a set, quadratic formula, and question 1. Right, but let's look at the problems. So problem number 1, they say solve for x. Give me in brackets x plus 4 times 2x minus 5 times 3x plus 4. And the key here, they say it's equal to 0. So it's equal to 0, I can use straight away what you call the zero factor law. I say x plus 4 must equal 0. 2x minus 5 equals 0, and 3x plus 4 equals 0. This is due to the fact that if I make this 0, 0 times anything stays 0. If I make that 0, 0 times anything else stays 0. So therefore I can make each bracket 0 to get to 0. If I take plus 4 over now here, x equal negative 4. Here if I take negative 5 over, it becomes positive 5. We always divide by whatever coefficient is in front of x. So x equal 5 divided by 2. There plus 4 goes over, it becomes a negative 4. I'm going to divide by 3 because that's the coefficient. So that becomes a minus 4 over 3. So in exam, this would be 3 marks, 1, 2, 3 marks. Right, so this is the first way we can test. Second one, we have x to the power 4 minus 16. So x to the power 4 is referred to as a perfect square because I have x squared times x squared. 16 is also a perfect square because it's multiplied, same value multiplied by itself. So 4 times 4 gives me 16. Because it has a minus sign, I can factorize it by 2 brackets. Key, it must have a negative sign. So x4 simply becomes x squared times x squared. 16 simply becomes 4 times 4, but it must read positive times negative to get to negative 16. So from there I have x squared plus 4, which I can't factorize any further, but x squared minus 4 still gives me a perfect square. So x squared becomes x times x, 4 becomes 2 times 2, but because of the negative it becomes negative times positive. So therefore, if I solve there, negative 2 goes over and x equal 2. Plus 2 goes over and x equal negative 2. Alright? So that is for difference of two squares. Keyword difference, there must be a minus sign in between the two perfect squares. Right? Now, number 3, factorizing a quadratic equation. There we have x squared minus 9x minus 36. So the key now we have a middle term. So in short, we must be able to use the first term and the last term's factors to get to the middle term. Right, so we should know x squared can only be x times x. Alright, so in brackets there you see I have x and x for x squared. Now it's choosing the correct factors of 36 to get to 9. And here it all boils down to whether you know your timetable or not. So I can start off easy and say minus 36 times 1 gives me negative 36. But if I take the signs, you see minus 36. That's positive 1 plus 1. It gives me negative 35. So I don't have negative 35 in the middle, so I can't use that factors. If I go to the second set, I have negative 12 times 3 gives me negative 36. But minus 12 plus 3 equal negative 9. So you can see there, negative 12 plus 3 gives me the negative 9. Go to the third set just to show you. If I said minus 6 times 6 gives me negative 36. But negative 6 plus 6 gives me 0. So I need to get to minus 9. So I'm going to use negative 12 and 3. So therefore x times x minus 12 times 3 gives me minus 36. But for the middle term, the two closest minus 12x. And the two furthest plus 3x. So minus 12 plus 3 then gives me minus 9x. So there I factorize that, but we're solving for x. So x minus 12 equals 0. If I take negative 12 over, it becomes x equal positive 12. X plus 3 equals 0. If I take plus 3 over, it becomes x equal negative 3. Very important, remember the word or in between. So we give you 2 marks, provided you put or. Don't go put the semicolon, etc. You have to write the word or in between. So this is the third way. We test factorization. I'm doing one of each, because you should have done them already in grade 10 and grade 9, some of it. Right, now next problem, number 4. Now this is the more complex problem we like to ask. Solve for x. Factorize, they gave us 5x squared minus 16x plus 12. So the key is x squared now has a coefficient, a value greater than 1 or less than 1, whichever way. Multiply the coefficients of the first and last term, because we now have to get to 16. So if I say 5 times 12 gives me 16. Again, x squared can only be x times x. Alright, so the x squared is not the problem. It's how I use the 5 and the 12 to get to negative 16. So factors of 60, minus 60 times minus 1 would give me positive 60. But minus 60 minus 1 gives me negative 61. Take note that's positive and positive. That's why I'm using the same signs. Negative 12 times negative 5 would give me positive 60. But minus 12 minus 5 gives me minus 17. So therefore not equal to minus 16. Then if we say negative 6 times negative 10 gives me positive 60. But minus 6 minus 10 gives me negative 16. So I'm going to use these values to get the factors. Alright. So if we look there, 5x squared, 5 is a prime number, so it can only be 5x times x. I need to get to negative 10 there, so 5 times what would give me negative 10? 5 times negative 2. So you see 5 times negative 2 gives me that negative 10. Right, and negative 6 goes there, so negative 6 times x. So multiply 5x times negative 2 gives me negative 10. Minus 6x gives me negative 16x. And there I factorize it, so x equals 6 over 5. If I take 6 over, it becomes positive, divided by the 5 in front of the x, 6 over 5. X minus 2, if I take the 2 over, becomes x equal positive 2. Or we have 5x squared minus 16x plus 12. Because I'm using minus 6 and minus 10, I'm going to use it as common factors. So I know 10 and 5. I can take out 5 as a common factor. So I write that as 5x squared minus 10x. For 12 and negative 6, they can be written as common factors. So minus 6x plus 12. So between 5x squared minus 10x, can take out x as a common factor and 5, so 5x. 5x squared divided by 5x gives me x, minus 10x divided by 5x gives me minus 2. Take out minus 6 as a common factor, minus 6x divided by negative 6x. The negative 6's cancel and I'm left with x. Positive 12 divided by negative 6 gives me negative 2. Right, now you see this bracket and that bracket are the same, separated by a minus sign, so I can take it out as a common factor and I have x minus 2. Then what's left in front of the brackets, 5x minus 6. Right, so if you can see this and you look at that, I have the same factors. My answer would stay x equals 6 over 5 or x equal to 2. Right, and there's still a third way, but I've not done these two ways to refresh. Right, let's look at the last problem. Solve for x, number 6. I have x minus 3 in brackets times x minus 2 in brackets. And now because it's not equal to 0, it's given equal to 12. We need to multiply this out. So take note, equation is not equal to 0. So therefore we need to multiply out and refactorize. So x times x gives me x squared. Minus 3x minus 2x gives me minus 5x. Negative times negative gives me positive. 3 times the 2 gives me 6. If I bring 12 over, it becomes negative 12. So I have x squared minus 5x. 6 minus 12 gives me negative 6. Right, now if I factorize, x squared can only be x and x. Factors of 6 that add up to 5. Negative 6 times positive 1 gives me negative 6. But minus 6 plus 1 gives me negative 5. So x minus 6 equals 0. If I take 6 over, x equals 6. X plus 1 equals 0. If I take 1 over, x equals minus 1. Right, and there I have factorize. Right. So say this is to help you answer the worksheet. When you're ready and so on, then I'll upload it for you. God bless. Please like and subscribe. Share with as many people as possible so we can help each other improve. The more you improve, the more I'm inspired to continue doing this. All right. God bless. Bye.